Hello dear students, I am Dr.S.D.Pagar, Associate Professor, Department of Geography. Dear students, I welcome all of you in this online lecture series on behalf of Maratha Vidya Prasara Samajas, Charity Arts, Beach Commerce and AM Science, popularly known as KTHM College Nasik. Dear students, this is our S.Y.B.Sc Geography class, semester 4, and the title of our subject is Environmental Geography Part 2. Dear students, the code of this subject is GG-241. Today, in this lecture, we are going to discuss our topic number 2, that is Environment Impact Assessment. And the subtopic that we are going to discuss today, Approaches of Environmental Management. Dear student, in previous lecture, we have discussed detailed information about the aspects of environmental management. For today's lecture, we have study objective, that is to discuss the various approaches of environmental management. Dear student, in general, environmental management involves judicious and gainful utilization of natural resources for socio-economic development and maintenance of environmental quality by adopting useful measures. Environmental management aims to control and monitor the exploration and utilization of natural resources to control environmental degradation and pollution. Dear student, to assess impact of proposed project and the activity on the environment is also important in this regard. Especially in previous lecture, we already discussed detail about the information about the environmental impact assessment. That is very important. If you want to propose any new project or economic development, that time that should be the access of the assessment of that project, what type of the impact it will be keep on the environment. If it is a negative, then definitely we try to minimize that negative impact as possible as by using the various measures. That is very important. Dear student, you know that in the recent year, several approaches have been developed for the management of the environment. Let us talk about the important approaches of the management. First, very important, that is the spatial approach. Dear student, in this approach, we identifying, explaining and try to control the environmental problem at various level or the location. Environmental management may be approached at a spatial level. It may like a local level, regional level, national level or international level by considering the spatial dimension of that particular problem. For example, the problem of ozone depletion or maybe the global warming, climate change, such type of the problem may be tackled at the global level and it should be resolved at the international level with support of the various nations. The population growth, deforestation, change in land use and the land cover, such type of the problem may be national level problem. We can able to minimize the intensity of this problem at the government level, at the national level. If you want to make an environmental management plan or the strategy for that purpose, the role of central government is very important in this regard. Dear student, the air pollution by any factory, release of the chemicals from a factory or the release of the urban sewage are some example of the local problem related to the local environmental problem. That such type of the problem we can able to solve with help of the local people and the local government. So you can see that at each and every level, the factors that are supporting for the making the environmental management, they are different. At the local level, they are different. At national level, it is different. And at international level, it is different. But each and every level, the cooperation and the support from the each and every factor is very important if you want to minimize the intensity of the various environmental problem. And as per these approaches, we can do this at various levels. Let us talk about the another important approach that we are using for the environmental management, and that is the preservative approaches. Dear student, the preservative approaches to environmental management support non-interference of a human being in the nature. It means the complete adaptation by man to natural environment. In fact, this approach is not possible as non-interference of man in the nature would lead to starvation of the human being. Therefore, to survive, the man has to make interference the nature and exploit some resources at the minimum level to fulfill the basic need. Yes, student, this is true. If you want to complete our various needs, the various needs of the human being, that time there is no any option for natural resources. We have to use this, but simultaneously what we have to do, we have to take care about the balance of the environmental factor or the environment ecological balance. That is very important. So as per this preservative approaches, we have to protect the various natural resources and also try to maintain the ecological and the environmental balance of the environment. And third very important approaches that we are using for the environmental management, that is the conservative approaches. Dear student, these approaches support the interference of man in nature to fulfill their basic needs. It states that the environmental resources may be utilized for the socio-economic development, but effort should also be made to maintain environmental balance and the environmental quality. To protect the environmental quality is very important. If you not do that, definitely it will be harmful for the all the biotic factors that are present on the environment. So as per this approaches, what is important? We can use the various natural resources of the environment for fulfilling our various basic needs and also to carry out the economic development of our country. But simultaneously, there should be the approach to protect our environment, to maintain the ecological balance. Environmental balance is very important as per the approach when you are going to frame or the strategy for the management of the environment. Let us talk about the another important approach, that's the holistic approaches. Dear student, this is very important approaches. Holistic approaches of the environment management advocates considering all the environmental problem coming out of the resource utilization together. It means all the problems should be solved together and not one by one. That is very important. In this, what is important? We have to solve all these problems at a glance. There should not be the strategy for the separate strategy for each and every problem. These approaches aim for long-term solution of the problem, not for the short period. So therefore, this is a very important approach, and we have to use these approaches if you want to maintain and keep the ecological and environmental balance of the environment. Then we have the another important approaches, that is the monistic approaches. This approach is really the opposite of the first approach, that is this approaches, that is the holistic approaches. It believes in short solution for specific problem. Dear student, it means the effort should be taken to solve one problem at a time rather than solving all the problems together at the same time. So therefore, sometimes this approach is very important. If you want, especially particularly when you want to resolve the problem at the local level, that time this monistic approach is very important, because that time we just try to solve the problem at the local level, a single problem at the local level. So therefore, at some extent, this approach is also very important when we are framing or the making a plan or the strategy for the environmental management at the local level. So this is also very important approaches. Let us talk about the another important approaches, that is system approaches. This approach allows a holistic view of how various components work together. Dear student, there are various systems in the nature. For example, we have the earth. Earth also is a very important system. The components of the system are depend on each other and there is always interaction among them. Dear student, one system is also depending on the another system. Therefore, while carrying out the environmental management, the planner have to consider and study different systems like agro-system, river system, lake system, coastal ecosystem, or where the forest ecosystem. Numbers of ecosystems are available on the surface, and you know that there is always interaction between the various ecosystems, and then the ecological balance can be maintained. Dear student, so this is the approach is very important when we are doing any work or when you are framing any plan. That time this principle we should keep in your mind while making the environmental management or any work. So if you want to minimize the intensity of the various ecological balance, that time this approach should keep in your mind. That is very important when you are framing any plan or any strategy for the environmental management. Let's talk about the economic or the commercial approaches. This is also very important approaches. It is related with the environmental management for the business sector through the green business ethics. It explains the role of business sector in the environmental protection. Dear student, it also recommended that the environmental sustainability should be achieved to a given level by using the minimum resources. That is very important. It means sustainable development. That is very important. As per these approaches, what is important? You have to make a strategy or the technology or the various method that there should be environmental protection, environmental conservation while you carried out your business or your industrial development or economic development. There should not be any harmful or negative impact on the environment. All your technology that you are going, technique or technology that we are going to use for the various purpose, that should be eco-friendly. There should not be any harmful impact on the ecosystem or maybe the other part of the natural environment. So this is really very important, and we have to follow it if we want to do a sustainable development, because you know that the numbers of the resources are very limited on the surface. If you want to sustain for a long period, then definitely this approach is very important if you want to continue your economic development and we want to fulfill the various needs of human being. Another important approaches of the environmental management is the integrated approach. Dear students, this is really very important. It is an integration of all the other approaches of the environmental management to find out the solution for the environmental problem. Dear student, it is a multidisciplinary approach. This approach combines the environmental management principle and the concept from all the branches of the knowledge for protection and the conservation of the environment. Dear student, this is really important. You know that there are numbers of the branches of the knowledge. Some are the social branches, or social sciences. Some are the pure sciences. Some are the earth sciences. Some are the humanities, engineering, agriculture. Numbers of the branches of the knowledge are available, and each and every branch there is some very important concept. That concept we can able to use when we are making the environmental management. So therefore, this is the integrated approach is very important. That time we think about the all approaches that are available in various branch of the knowledge, various sciences, and by using their knowledge and the concept, we can able to frame a very nice environmental management plan that can be useful for the human development also, economic development also, and simultaneously it is also useful for the ecological balance or the environmental balance of the nature. Dear student, this was about today's lecture. In this lecture, we discuss about the various approaches of the environmental management. In next lecture, we are going to discuss about the various rules, regulations, and acts that we have in India for the environmental protection. Thank you.